Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about what I learned from self publishing a book and sort of the 5 lessons that I learned. So, for some intro, 4 years ago, um, I self published a book called Behind the Smiles: Insecurities, Doubts, Growth, and Finding Inner Peace. And this is how I described the book when I published it. Ages 18 to 22 are a formative time period in our human lives. As I experienced them, I wrote down my thoughts in the form of poems. I touch on many topics such as college, trust, depression, love, and finding inner mental peace. By being honest, raw, and detailing my own battle with fighting depression and low self-esteem, I hope that my book can be a good, informative read and can also serve as an inspiration to anyone who is going through a low point, tough period in their life to find inspiration from my story and realize no matter how hard of a time you're going through, never give up on yourself. So, basically it was a collection of poems on the ups and downs of my journey 18 to 22. I'd say the first lesson I learned is self-publishing is not that hard. Amazon has a service called Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, which honestly is very easy to follow, and self-publish a book. I think for most things in life, you might need to Google or YouTube it and like read/watch many videos to kind of understand the process. And honestly, I really didn't have to do a lot of those things with Amazon self-publishing platform because it's easy to follow. The steps are easy. You create a book cover, you submit your book for review, etc. So that's the first point. The second one is, I think it's really important to understand why you're doing this, right? For me at that time, my first goal was help guide any current college student at that time, who's going through their own ups and downs by giving them, my experience and, what it was like for me. The way I looked at it was, I would have loved to have had this book as a freshman and just had this as a guide. Second reason, honestly, I was in a relationship at the time and I wanted, the person I was in a relationship with to understand, this part of my past. And obviously I'm not with that person anymore, but even for future relationships, I think, if it gets serious, this is a book that I'm going to give them. If there's someone, that I'm kind of recently meeting, i.e. they haven't known me for a long time. I think it's an interesting thing for people that have dealt with mental health issues for a long time is, and you're meeting someone, and that was the situation there. Like I was meeting that person at a time when my mental health was good. And so they wouldn't have suspected or known about, my past or the times that I struggled. And so for me, this was my kind of way of explaining, my journey in the past before I met this person, rather than, them having no idea really of my past. And honestly, the final reason was I was thinking a lot about legacy and death at that time. A cousin type figure of mine had passed away from a brain tumor at like 13, I believe. And I was in a tough place. I really had a lot of questions about the world. You know, Coco was his name, and he never got to see high school. And one of the things that I remarked about that was, I never went a day of my life and was like, I'm grateful for high school, or, but I should have been. And, I got myself, I'm not going to lie, I got myself into a bad place, thinking about death a lot, but I think it's an interesting thought process, right? Because like for me, Coco's niceness and Coco's ability to, despite all the adversity that he was going through, to not complain and have fun in life. That was his legacy to me, and I was thinking about what's my legacy to someone else, And, obviously, none of us know how long we have, but, I was going through the thought process of if I died tomorrow in a freak car accident, what would my friends or family have to remember of me? And this is what I wanted at the time. This is my give back, my personal legacy that I want. So those were my main motivating factors, and I speak honestly in that. And I think a lot of people can have different motivating factors, right? And I don't think this is wrong to have this type, but if your main motivating factor is to sell books, at least from my personal experience, obviously there are a lot of self-publishing authors that might have a different experience, is I wouldn't necessarily recommend this way, the self-publishing route, only because, like, if you don't have a community and following, it's hard to sell books, right? And I didn't have a huge following. I didn't even have, like, a separate account or anything. It was just, I just posted it on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, just telling my friends and family and personal network I had published this book. I think a publisher could probably do a lot better job of marketing and selling copies. Obviously, that route is tougher because you have to submit your book to many publishers probably, and a lot of them might say no to you. So for me, if that's your goal, I from my experience, I wouldn't recommend self-publishing. The third thing I would say on that note is, price your book smartly, understand the royalty structure. Again, for me, it wasn't about money. Wasn't going, you know what I mean? It's not like I built up this following and was like, all right, this is how I capitalized. No, it was just, I'm scared of dying, tomorrow in like a car accident. And I want something for people to have, to remember me. I priced my book at $9.99. I made $3.84. A book based on Amazon's fees and, publishing and, printing the book. So just, I think, know that ahead of time if that's something that you're, if this is a financial motivation. I think the fourth thing I would say is you never know who you'll impact. One of the interesting things about me publishing that book is it ended up getting to the hands of two people that entered college after I graduated. One, was a good friend of mine's brother. Another was basically another friend of a friend. Those two individuals let me know how impactful it was. I think that, I don't want to speak for them, but at the time, at least that's what was conveyed to me, is they were struggling socially, and it was nice to get this book or this blueprint of, the ups and downs of college, of identity, of the decisions you're making. And, it's so interesting. I think our society has an obsession with numbers and, millions of copies. And I get it. I totally get it. But there is power in, two individuals who entered college after you telling you, man, this book really helped me. It's cliche when people say as long as one person's life is helped. But honestly, like when you feel that and someone says that to you, like it makes it all worth it. And so, never in my wildest dreams had I had imagined that that type of impact would have happened. And it was cool that I did it because I saw that type of impact happen. The final thing I'll say is doing something entrepreneurial at a young age. Just be prepared for that being against the norm, and like judgment coming. I mean, I think there were plenty of people, around me that were questioning. Listen, dude, you're 22, you're young in your business career, like coming out with telling the world you've dealt with depression, like, is that really such a smart thing? Listen, we all have, you know, the ways that we live our life. I'm not saying mine is more correct than anybody else's. The decisions I made, you know, um, you know, with the idea of living with no regret, and I'm happy with that. And in terms of the business stuff, like, if someone's gonna, thankfully I wasn't looking for any jobs. At that time, I had a job, but I mean, even still, if someone's gonna look at that, and see my Instagram account and then go, oh, he wrote a book about depression. We're not gonna hire him. I mean, if that happens, then it's not the right fit for me. Obviously, I understand that comes from a privileged point of view of having a job, but I think that person has a lot more going for them in terms of problems in their life if they're gonna hate on someone trying to destigmatize mental health. I hope this provides perspective for my self on the self-publishing experience. That being said, if there are any aspects that you wish I would have addressed, let me know. I'm happy to address them. And one other thing I should say, I mean, everybody, when we talk about judgment, we talk about the negatives, but I should also say, realize you're going to get a lot of positives too. Sorry, I'm yawning a lot. A lot of people are going to say, I have a lot of respect for you. I have a lot of respect for you going after your dreams and not letting the judgment of others stop what you're doing. Or just, that's awesome that you're willing to destigmatize by putting yourself out there. All those things. So realize there's all bad judgment and good judgment. But yeah, back to concluding. I think, understand self-publishing is not that hard. Understand your motivation for doing it. And then, approach the situation based on that. Price your book smartly. Understand you'll never know who you can impact, so go for it, in my mind. And then understand judgment's going to come, good and bad. Hope this is of help. Thanks, guys.